Welcome back to Filmworks Fantastic. Now, today is a very special episode, personally to me, because I have a personal good friend here that we've been journeying in this industry since the very beginning. And I've seen him grow from wedding videographer to cinematographer, producer, the whole shebang. Jorrie, welcome to Filmworks Fantastic.
Thanks, Jacobus. Yeah, great to be here.
Now, Jorrie, it's I remember like moments we had where even just admiring a group evening where we watched the film Nacho Libre. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, it's still a classic.
It's still a classic. And growing from that time now, that was also a time when I was student films. I kid you not, I'm going to tell a story, Jorrie, because Jorrie was so good at our video classes that our professor started penalizing him on his spelling errors just to not have him 100% on his test.
Yeah, I was never good in spelling.
But you absolutely compensated with it, and you are a game-changing guy in this industry in South Africa and now moving to a global stage as well. Jorrie, I would love to really just touch on your early days. You're a Nailstrom, Boykie, a really small town. But moving to university, starting with weddings, just run us by your humble beginnings.
Yeah, so I did a very quick course at Media Village. It was about a 3-month introduction into film. I wanted to do photography, entered into the photography class, and then got an email said they don't have enough participants.
Oh dear.
Am I willing to join the School of Video Production?
No way.
So I was like, okay, sounds cool, let's do it. and then I just realized, look, video is 24 photos a second.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really powerful medium. And went through that course and then went to Potchefstroom, and that's where we sort of aligned and we met and stuff. And very early on, like a month in, I realized, oh my word, I'm never going to touch a camera in this course.
Wow.
And you know the same. It's only on your third, fourth year you actually get to operate. So it's a lot of theory, not a lot of practical.
Yeah.
And then just realized, now I need to just start doing productions. And we need to start doing stuff. And that first semester break we had, I went to 2 corporate companies.
Yeah.
Said to them, I want to do a marketing video for you. I'll do it for free. You pay for the equipment.
Wow.
And that's where it started. And made a marketing video for them, got the experience. They turned into clients eventually. And from there it sort of built up and then went into the whole wedding scene. Did about 30 weddings a year. And I think that
was while you were studying, right?
That's while I'm studying, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, so the important thing there was just the experience. So a lot of people in the cinematography scope sort of looks down at weddings, but it's a lot of information, a lot of training you can actually get out of it. You know, it's that in-moment instinct filmmaking of somebody's walking down an aisle. I cannot forget to press record. Little disciplines, that type of stuff, and I think it's actually helped me right through my career.
But also like understanding your cameras though, hey? I mean, there's exteriors, there's interiors, there's low lights, there is way too much light. So I'm sure you have to know your camera inside and out as well.
Yeah, I think it's a lot easier these days. I mean, we were shooting on a PD-170, so it was sort of like the flagship Sony in that time, DV tapes.
Yeah.
And I always remember you're like filming during the day, it's great, you get all of your stuff, and then you get to your night scenes, and you have to put a red head up. And you bounce it into the ceiling. And they've paid thousands for this ambient lighting and this beautiful thing. And here you come to film
600 watts.
Well, yeah, you're here to now film their first dance. And you're like, and everything is just flat. And then the woman's like, oh, it's giving me a headache. Switch off your light. And so I think these days with the lower sensors, it's a lot more natural light. It's a lot more you can get away with in that days. But there's a lot of discipline you also learn in that. Because it's one thing to shoot, it's one thing to be behind camera. You're never going to be behind a camera and not have to deal with a client, whether your client's a director, producer, and this is all part of your training. It's all a very important skill that you need to learn.
So what gravitated you to, so weddings are pretty much stories, but it's a run, gun, get that moment type of story. You cannot miss the I-dos.
Yeah.
So you piece by piece built yourself. You went through a TV stage as well, but there's always something. It felt like there's always a gravitation towards storytelling. Run me by that segue.
Yeah, look, on the wedding side, it was to gain experience, to get into a market. Was never like super passionate about it, but the moment I put a camera on my hand, I'm passionate. Doesn't matter what I'm filming. But I've always been a storyteller, always really liked stories. And from early on, I just realized the power of the medium that we're in.
Wow.
The influence that you can actually have through the stories itself, whether it's life-changing or whether it's just entertainment, there's still an impact that you can make. And I think that's sort of where the narrative side always grabbed me. And then started working into television, worked for a company in Cape Town, did a lot of different stuff. And I think in that 2.5, 3 years I worked with them, I think they really worked me hard, and I was also willing to really work hard. And I think the experience that I gained in that time is probably like valued 5 to 6 years of experience.
Absolutely.
From wildlife.
Wow.
We did a lot of wildlife stuff. We did a lot of lifestyle stuff, documentaries, small ads.
Wow.
And I was the only in-house cameraman
No
in that company at that time.
Wow.
And they really worked me hard. Really,
Sure.
really.
I
And I think
I think we overlapped for the
yes, we
same
did.
company at some
we
point,
did.
eh?
Yeah. I got out earlier.
You did.
But no, but that's the thing, it's I've never been like, I was young, they really worked me hard, so they really got a lot of value out of me. But I also got a lot of value out of that. And I think that's something that we sometimes mislook. Experience and gaining experience and be given an opportunity to gain experience is really valuable.
But also building a work ethic and understanding how to work is very important. You've moved beyond TV, but when was that pivotal moment then where you realized, okay, maybe I can actually go to director of photography?
Yeah, I don't think it was like a really moment like that. I always wanted to get into film, right? Because that's sort of the stories you're telling, the medium. That's what I watch. That's what entertains me, is film, your series, and all of that. And I've been sort of stuck in doing a lot of lifestyle, doing a variety of stuff. And I mean, I've done short films. We've done smaller stuff in the early days as well, and sort of wanted to step into that industry. And then I realized it's a different industry, completely different. So if I wanted to move into that industry, I had to start from the bottom.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't go. So your normal route on a film set would be you start as a trainee, then you'll maybe move into a loader. Then from there you can hopefully move into focus pulling and then camera operating and then DOP.
And how long is a conventional route in terms of years?
It could be 10 to 15
Wow.
years.
Wow.
I think now it happens a lot quicker because that is the conventional old school classic way.
Right.
A lot of people did it.
Yeah.
Now there's a lot of people that start creating their own content from early on.
Okay.
And they sort of work themselves into that. And I got to a place where like I really want to do this. I've got a lot of work, but I don't want to start from the bottom. I just can't do it. And then we decided, well, let's just produce our own movie.
Wow.
Let's start there. It's that typical thing you and a friend's like, let's make a movie. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, let's make a movie. And that's when we made a film called Klein Kruger 1.
Wow.
Which
And
is about 12 years ago.
it did really well, though.
It did really
It
well.
did amazing.
We learned a lot. We almost lost a lot. But the experience out of that. And from there, it was sort of, okay, now you've got a movie underneath your belts. Always knew I could do it. I learned a lot. There's a lot of stuff I would do differently now. But once again, that experience is so valuable. And if you don't try stuff and if you don't challenge yourself, then you're not going to get the experience.
So Jorrie and I worked on a movie together at some point, and it was a very high-pressure movie because it was an independent film.
Yeah.
But what struck me, Jorrie, you have a very hands-on approach. So it's not just kind of like a management position, I would say, as a DP, but you're also very hands-on, and you have a spirit of training others that is part of your team. Tell me, where does that come from, and why? What motivates you to do that?
I think if you don't, I think specifically in your independent stuff. So I think it's always been part of my character to train and to have a type of a synergy approach of more a team effort than individual effort. But if you have to look at it in a practical sense, I would say if you work in a small independent film and you don't train the guys, why? Doesn't make sense. Because you're going to be busy with this for 5 or 8 weeks.
Sure.
after week 1, you want to be able to train people, teach them what to do, so that week 2 can go better, then week 3 can go better.
Right.
By the time you're in week 5, it should be a thing that's just ticking over, and it should be, because we want to get away from the technical stuff. The technical stuff needs to be second nature. You want to focus on the being creative and creating. And a lot of times we get caught up in the technical stuff.
Yeah.
And the sooner you can get a team around you that's strong in the technical stuff, you can actually then start being creative and think out of the box, because it's a big engine that keeps on turning.
Yeah.
There's a lot of facets to a film and a shooting of it.
So I've seen you also being quite an industry changer. So it feels like when you became a father, you understood also the value of family, and since then there were components that you started applying in the productions that you were involved that was more family orientated. Run me by that, because that is not the norm for the industry, correct?
No, it's definitely not the norm. I think it's just out of experience in the industry. The hours that you need to work, the type of people that you're working with, so you're working with trainees that sort of came through the ranks, and now they're actually earning really good salaries, but they never have been financially trained how to actually manage that income.
Sure.
And I see it everywhere in industry, and it's just stuff that I've picked up as I worked really hard, because there's times where I did 4 drama series a year. As DP.
We're talking series now. So,
yeah,
so series is a different ball game even than a movie, because it's a bunch of episodes that you have to pull out, and just 4 a year is intense on family life.
Yeah, so you would go, pre-prod, planning everything 4 to 5 weeks, shoot for 12 weeks. Then you'll come straight off of that, go into the next pre-production, shoot it, because you were sort of at a place where you need to take the work.
Wow.
Because you're just like, it's going to stop. And then
that's almost your salary.
Yeah, and if I miss this one gap, then I'm going to wait another 3-4 months for the next one.
Wow.
And that's sort of a rhythm a lot of people falls into. And in that time, I've not really seen people with relationships, or people that's not divorced.
Sure.
Amount of people with healthy relationships. And we used to make a joke of somebody seeing his kid after a job, and he needs to greet him with a handshake, and it's like at that time, this is funny. No, it's not funny. We're creating an industry where it's unhealthy for families to function in.
Sure.
And if we don't start changing the approach, what type of people are we going to sit with? And what sustainable market are we going to sit with? Wow. And that sort of became quite a drive in the way that we try and approach our productions. I'm still not getting it right.
Of course.
But we did a film last year which was completely independent, and it was short. We basically shot it in about 18 days. So it was a very contained movie for the international market.
Context, a normal local production would typically take
4 to 5 weeks.
Yeah. So that was really short.
And then you're looking at 6-day weeks as well.
Yes.
Right? So
12-hour days.
12-hour days. Yeah. And on this specific production, just from the beginning, 5-day weeks. We're going to shoot this in 5-day weeks.
Wow.
12 hours. And we are not going to use our 6-day as a turnaround day. So a lot of times what happens, people say, okay, 6 week, 5 days. And then that 5-day week, they actually use it as a night shoot. Because with your turnaround, off day, you need 36 hours before you can start on set again without paying overtime.
Right.
And that was sort of, there was really times where we really needed the extra time. But we just backed ourselves and said 5-day weeks. Yeah. And the amazing thing is the difference it made in people's lives, energy and synergy on set.
Wow.
Because imagine.
Yeah.
Right? So for me, it's easier. I'm married, so there's somebody that can run the house for me. They can make food. They can do, they can help me. They can support me. If you are not married, for instance, you live on your own. You work 6 days a week, 12 hours. So you get home at 9 o'clock at night. There's nobody made food for you.
Yeah.
So you either go get junk food, or you make, you can't wash your clothes. You can't. Wow. So there's a lot of stuff that's really.
It plays into that.
Plays into that, yeah.
And you're tired.
And you're tired. So
turnaround time, you're just used to rest. Yeah. Or binge watch.
Yeah, and now you get people that's doing it from job to job to job.
Wow.
And they literally get burned out from it.
Mm.
And that's sort of a approach that we try to say, okay, how can we change it in the type of productions that we do? How can we make it a healthier environment? So I would like to think that we are moving towards it and we are getting solutions, but I think we've got far to go.
This is just off the cuff. I saw Netflix doing something similar. Is that something that's applicable to production with Netflix or not? Is it not something?
In what case? Working hours?
Yeah, working hours and things, or not?
Not really, no.
Okay. So.
It's that's a problem. It's a lot of times open to the producer's discretion. Because the producer needs to manage the budget, but there's also within that bigger scope of stuff, you're also working with actors' availability, you're working with locations, you're working with there's a whole bunch of stuff, and it always forces you to let's just do this and get finished.
Wow. So let's zoom in back to your language as a DP.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that working from a rom-com to something more moody, there's a huge light palette difference that you have to work with, and surely you can't just jump and have experience in all of it. How do you study something and really keep that communicative method of lighting, of mood, right through your entire feature or even TV series, as you rightly said?
Yeah. Look, it's not easy. I always say it's like, for instance, let's say we make a commercial. A lot of commercials is 30 seconds, 40 seconds. So you need like 6 nice shots in it, right? Yeah. If you do a series that you're shooting for 12 weeks, 6 days a week, it becomes a different ball game. And a lot of times you're doing 8 to 10 minutes of content a week, a day, pages that you're physically shooting. So to be able to achieve that, you need to put a lot of guidelines in place. So my process would normally be sitting with my director. He normally has sort of a director's treatment, sort of the way that he wants to go. I will then do the cinematographer or a DP's breakdown and a treatment of the type of approach that I want to take, lighting-wise, stylistically.
Is this where you then take current, almost like reference images from current features or shows as a stylistic approach, and just show that
just to show sort of what the idea is. I've got a different process. I sort of, if I'm in that creative process, I actually remove myself from external influences. So I'll stay away and try not to watch too many series or different movies or that type of influences.
Interesting. Okay.
Because I feel that in South Africa we don't really have our own cinematography language yet. I think we do play the game of copycats a lot. And yes, it's inspiration, but is there stuff that we're trying differently? Because everybody was like, I mean, you do one nice Steadicam shot that lasts 5 minutes, and everybody's like, "Oh, it's like Birdman." No, it's not like Birdman.
Right.
It is. This is a shot that I thought about, that we planned, and I didn't even reference it to that. So there's other movies way before Birdman that use Steadicam. It's not. It's really not that unique.
Yeah.
But that's sort of so sort of get to a point where you sort of think, okay, what is the look? What is the style? Am I going for like a high key lighting approach? Are we doing like really soft cosmetic lighting on our actors, or is this a horror where we're looking at harder shadows, more contrasted stuff? And then with the director, I'll then sit and we'll sort of develop a style that I'll sort of put on a table, and then you put guidelines in place. If you say, I'll literally go and say, I don't want to do slide and glides on the shoot because that is such an easy save. Let's go a slider, let's track from left to right or right to left. And then I'll not have a slider on the shoot.
So you force yourself to keep to a specific style, basically, but actually not having specific components on set. Wow.
Because you'll, at the moment, you're like, oh, a slider would be so nice.
Yeah.
Okay, well, what is our convention? What is the style and language we created? We're not going to use a slider, so let's find a different way of bringing that emotion.
Wow.
And that could be through the blocking, through the movement of the actor.
Yeah.
It doesn't always need to be camera movement.
Wow.
So I did a series, it was called Complex. Really interesting series, like a 6-part series that was on CakeNet.
Yes.
And on that specific one, the style that I sort of pitched and the director went with is no camera movement.
What?
So
That's very daring, though.
So the idea was for this whole series, the camera doesn't pan, no tracks, no sliders
Not even panning.
on head and leg. There'll be you can do a pan, but it's from one point to another point,
Right,
and very
right.
precise.
Okay. Okay.
So we worked with a static camera,
Mm.
and our blocking of the actors were the movement in the shots.
Wow.
And it actually worked really well. So what we
Wow.
then did is it was 2 stories playing in 2 different universes,
Cool.
in parallel universes.
Yeah.
And the one is now in the one story we started very center framed. So
Okay.
our character is young, he's got everything together,
Yeah.
and as he starts progressing through the story, our balance in our composition starts
Yeah.
moving to a negative space. So it
Okay.
starts shifting from center to negative with
That is
all
amazing.
frame type of frame.
Yeah.
And in the parallel universe, we did the opposite. So that started off balance,
Yes.
and as the story progressed, it moved
Yeah.
into a center frame.
Yeah.
And it worked really well, but it took a lot of planning. Because you're also
That's
not
the
shooting,
thing.
and you're
You're not
also
shooting chronologically.
you're not shooting chronologically. Yeah, so you needed to do a breakdown and know, okay, at this scene I want to be at this point, this shot, this
Wow.
is what happened, and it's one of those things. If you watch the movie or the series, probably not going to pick it up, but you
Yeah.
will feel like this is different.
Sure.
And I think that's the important thing is at least create a plan, create a style, create
Yeah.
something that you think is unique.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not. Maybe you're so influenced through the other stuff you think it's unique and it's not. It's
Yeah.
probably true.
Yeah.
But at least you are trying to create
Yeah.
a language, a cinematography language that's yours.
So it makes me think that what you're referencing to is almost the importance of pre-production planning for the camera department, correct?
Yeah, it is. And I don't think we get enough time on production. So a lot of times I've done a 12-week shoot series with a week pre-prod.
No way.
And the reality is,
That's what the budget allows.
it's what the budget allows, but you'll do a lot on your own expense. So I'll read the scripts beforehand. I'll sit with the director, make meetings,
I see.
because if you don't do that pre-prod,
Mm.
it's just not going to work
Right.
throughout this film
Yeah.
or the
Yeah.
series. Yeah, so that planning is really crucial.
Wow. So that brings us to just you've gained incredible experience, and there's some amazing, wonderful opportunities lying ahead for you, and we'll touch on that on a later episode. But if there's some nuggets of wisdom, practical wisdom that you can give guys that want to grow into a narrative role, what would that be?
I think just tell stories,
Mm.
right? I think a lot of us are waiting for opportunities, but there's so many amazing short film competitions out there. If you've got friends that can write a story and you shoot, go shoot it. If you don't spend time behind a camera, you're not going to grow. You're not going to move forward. Go shoot something. Let it be the worst thing you ever shoot. Just don't release it then. But at least work. Because if you set out at home with your camera in its bag,
Right.
nobody's gaining experience out of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's the most important thing. And don't despise small beginnings, right? Don't think, okay, because I'm just doing this little shoot or a podcast here or this. See where the opportunity is for experience within every little facet that you're working in.
Wow.
Because you need to grow and you need to gain experience and you need to challenge yourself. So don't fall into a rhythm of, okay, this is now my life. This is now what I shoot. I think that's the best advice that I can give.
So I hope Jorrie really gave you some insights on your filmmaking journey moving forward. So be sure to like and subscribe, as you know, to grow as a filmmaker, tell better stories, just here on Filmworks Fantastic.